Hello friends, in this video we'll be discussing the concept of primary markets. In the previous video we have discussed the types of financial markets under which there was a concept called as capital market. Capital market, as we have understood, is divided into two parts, that is the primary market and the secondary market, and therefore this video will be focusing on the primary markets. We'll be covering three major concepts of primary markets in this particular video. One, all the kind of reforms brought in the primary market in the last 2 decades. Number two, the participants or the intermediaries who actually network together to make primary market successful. And number three, the procedure of issue of equity shares in public. So let's begin. As we understood that primary market is a market where new securities are issued by the new companies or the existing companies. In short, whenever a company wants to raise capital through public especially or through private placements, they will approach a market called as primary market. Primary market, as we understand, is not a place. It's basically a network amongst all the intermediaries, the participants. Let us first understand what are the reforms which were taken in the last 2 decades in the Indian primary market. The reforms of the Indian primary market actually were a major turning point in bringing up a major change into the development of a primary market. However, these reforms come together with their disadvantages too. So let's focus on the reforms one by one. The major reform brought by the government was that the companies can now fix the prices of their shares freely. Now, what does it mean? When a company wants to fix the price of an IPO, it's free to fix up a price. It will evaluate and fix up a price of its share. Now, this makes things very easy as well, very encouraging as well, but comes with problems. However, the Indian primary market took it really positively, and the companies were able to evaluate their share prices based on their goodwills. However, in cases where there were problems, where the companies were over-exaggerating and overvaluing their prices, there were problems attracted to it. However, this worked well in the primary market. Secondly, the government allowed financial institutional investors to invest in the primary market of the country, and this brought a lot of money for the encouragement of companies. The investment norms of the NRI were liberalized. That is an important point. NRIs living across the world were allowed to invest in the Indian companies liberally. Next one is that the Indian companies were allowed to raise capital from the foreign countries and foreign companies as well. Indian companies were allowed to list themselves in the foreign stock exchange. This was very important and a matter of pride as well for the Indian companies. Several training programs were introduced by the Securities Exchange Board of India, SEBI, amongst the investors to create education. Next, the sweat equity shares, the concept of sweat equity shares and non-voting shares was brought in. The market of mutual funds was restructured and reorganized. Specifically after the UTI issue, the whole concept of mutual fund lost its glory, and therefore the primary market required some boost, and mutual funds stock market was restructured and reorganized. The government also made it very strict norms for the intermediaries who were a participant of the primary market to follow a lot of compliances. The issue of shares and securities was made completely online. This was a major change, and online selling of shares and securities was a turning point in the Indian primary markets. The RBI formulated strict regulations for the non-banking financial corporations. After a lot of frauds in the years of 1990s, NBFCs were stringently tightened by the Reserve Bank of India. The entry norms for an IPO were revised and made stringent so that not XYZ companies can enter the stock market. The credit rating agencies were regulated stringently again and made sure that the credit rating which was given by the companies, by these agencies to the companies on their instruments was strictly following norms. Public sector bonds are brought under the preview of SEBI. proportionate basis allotment or pro rata allotment was allowed in the case of oversubscription of shares. The SEBI provided several strict norms for the advertisement of IPOs, and the concept of ESOP, Employees Stock Option Plan, was introduced for the first time. Let us now focus on the intermediaries or the participants or various agencies which make the primary market work. The primary market actually revolves around the networking of all these intermediaries. They can be listed as follows. The merchant banker, also called as the lead manager. Number 2 could be underwriters. Number 3, registrar to an issue, who can also be called as share transfer agent further. Debenture trustees, portfolio managers, and bankers to an issue. Let us discuss them one by one. First, the registrar to an issue. During an IPO, several kinds of applications come in, a huge quantity of applications come into the company, and not all the applicants are allotted shares. And therefore, it's very, very important to keep a real register, a record to understand who are those investors who are being allotted shares. So a registrar to an issue is appointed on the basis of compliances fulfilled by SEBI. This registrar to an issue has a duty to maintain the register of all those people who have applied. Finally, to make corrections and understand about who are the people to be refunded their money, and make a list of those people who are finally allotted those shares. However, a registrar to an issue converts into the role of a share transfer agent after the IPO is closed. After the IPO is closed, the registrar to an issue just makes corrections in the name of the shareholders when the shareholders sell their stocks in the stock markets, and therefore he can update the whole register to issue dividends to the right person, the right shareholder at the end. So registrar to an issue converts himself into a share transfer agent after the IPO is closed. Next is underwriters. Underwriting actually is an arrangement between two parties wherein one party takes care of making sure that all the shares which are not purchased by the public, or if the subscription, the IPO, is not subscribed to the minimum level of 90%, in that case the underwriter takes a responsibility that he will purchase all the remaining shares to make the IPO floating. In short, these kind of underwriters provide an insurance to the IPO, and therefore it is a very, very important aspect for any company. It's a compulsion to appoint underwriters on a basis of some fees is also paid to them, which is under the compliances of SEBI, and all the underwriters are supposed to fulfill their requirements. Suppose if an underwriter has taken responsibility of underwriting the shares of a company, and if the IPO fails, the underwriter has to in any case go ahead and purchase all those shares which are balanced. However, अगर underwriter shares purchase नहीं करता है, in that case what happens that the underwriter is black marked or debarred from the stock markets, from the primary markets by the SEBI and the stock exchanges. Next, bankers to an issue. Banker to an issue is a bank which actually takes care of all the kind of money coming in from the applications of IPOs. During the times of IPO, a lot of small amounts of money come into picture, and these amounts are not deposited in the normal bank account of a company. For this, एक special account खोला जाता है, escrow account. इस account में एक तरह से अमानत के तौर पर this bank keeps all the money which is received as application money, and only after understanding that who are the shareholders जिनको ये shares मिलने चाहिए, उनका पैसा ये रखकर बाकी जिन्हें हम शेयर नहीं दे पा रहे हैं, जिनको ज्यादा एप्लीकेशंस के कारण हम शेयर नहीं दे पाते हैं, उन्हें रिफंड करना ये इंपॉर्टेंट होता है, या प्रोपोर्शनेटली अगर पैसा आया है तो प्रोपोर्शनेटली उसे एडजस्ट करना, और फाइनली एक सही अमाउंट की कैलकुलेशंस कर इन्वेस्टर्स को अपना पैसा वापस पहुंचाना इफ रिक्वायर्ड, और कंपनीज को उसका पैसा वहां तक पहुंचाना. सो बैंकर्स टू इशू आर स्पेसिफिक बैंक्स हु टेक स्पेशलाइज्ड टास्क of collecting money of an initial public offer or a follow-on public offer. Debenture Trustees. This is interesting. कभी आपने अगर किसी मंदिर, मस्जिद, गुरुद्वारा, चर्च में कहीं डोनेशन किया होगा, तो हम जाकर अपना डोनेशन एक दान पेटी में डाल आते हैं. But what actually happens? क्या भगवान बाहर निकल के आते हैं रात में, अमाउंट चेक करते हैं, गिनते हैं? नो, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. We actually have a team of people who are called as trustees. Trustees who are appointed for that religious organization, who are trusted people in the society, जिनको हम जैसे लोग सोसाइटी में एक ओहदा देते हैं, and we trust them to take care of that money which comes as charity to the religious organization. Similarly, debenture holders की जब बात आती है, debenture holders याद रखिएगा are not the owners of the company. Shareholders are owners, but debenture holders are the creditors of the company. और ये डिबेंचर होल्डर्स जब अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हैं, याद रखिएगा, फ्रॉम कश्मीर टू कन्याकुमारी, डिबेंचर होल्डर्स आर अनऑर्गेनाइज्ड. वो अलग अलग जगह फैले हुए हैं, उनका कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन नहीं होता है. एंड देयरफॉर आगे जाकर डिबेंचर होल्डर को सही समय पर उनका इंटरेस्ट मिले या उनका पैसा उन्हें सही टाइम पर, रीपेमेंट के टाइम पर वापस मिले. टू मेक श्योर वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट देयर हैज टू बी समवन हु टेक्स केयर. एंड देयरफॉर अ बैंक और अ फाइनेंशियल इंस्टीट्यूशन is appointed as a debenture trustee. This debenture trustee takes care that all the rights of the debenture holders are taken well. The debenture holders gets the interest in time, gets the repayment in time, and if in case of the debentures which are secured by some assets, this debenture trustee also makes sure that the property or the asset which has been mortgaged is not sold to any other party. So debenture trustees are very important for the unorganized debentures in debenture holders. Portfolio managers, my favorite. Portfolio managers are people who actually understand the markets, read the sentiments, and plan a portfolio of finance for any individual. But now here they also comes as advisor of an issue. They are people who can advise people to buy the issue, the shares. सो पोर्टफोलियो मैनेजर का काम यह होता है कि वो दूसरों को पैसे को कैसे मैनेज करना है, किस तरीके से उसे मैनेज करना है. इसके 4-5 चीजें उसको स्टडी करनी होती है. ही स्टडीज द मार्केट वेल, what kind of companies he studies, what are the kind of companies, which companies are going ahead in life. Number 3, he focuses on the news coming up for all the kind of companies and the markets. Number 4, he studies the foreign markets, the foreign events. Number 5, it studies political events around. Number 6, it studies all the kind of developments happening across the world. The ultimate aim of a portfolio manager is to study all these aspects and also to study the risk appetite of the investor and the requirement of an investor, and therefore to make a portfolio. Or portfolio management doesn't mean just making a portfolio. It means that not only making it, but also revising that portfolio from time to time. Like if I have invested some money in particular shares for my client as a portfolio manager, I should make sure that that amount should be giving optimum results to the investor. If the optimum results are not getting, then I'm not a good portfolio manager. So for getting optimum results, I may need to switch over the investment of my client in different ways. My friends, this could be a very, very good career option for the students as well. So portfolio management is a very important task in terms of advising on a issue. I would like to take the merchant bankers or lead managers at the end because these are kind of all-rounders of a cricket team or a captain of a cricket team. This kind of a merchant banker is specifically appointed under the laws of SEBI, under the law of SEBI and compliances. The merchant bankers play a role of an overall all-rounder and fulfill a lot of these services like managing public issues of securities, private placement of securities, underwriting the public issue which it manages, stockbroking, international financial advisory services, drafting of prospectus and its vetting with SEBI, to assist the company in getting listed with the stock exchange, to arrange or to provide credit rating services to the company, to help the company in deciding the basis for allotment, to offer financial expertise in mergers and takeovers to corporate sector, liquidity management, and arrangement of venture capital. So all these kind of services are taken care by the lead managers or the merchant bankers, and therefore they are one of the most important participants in a primary market. So the integration of all these participants make the primary market go smooth, working, and it develops the confidence of the investor and the companies to go ahead on the path of prosperity. It should be noted that all the kind of the participants we have discussed now should be registered with SEBI and should fulfill all the compliances which are required by SEBI from time to time. Let us now discuss the major points of the procedure of issue of shares. When a company wants to issue shares, and specifically an IPO, the company has to go through a lot of process. First of all, a company has to pass resolution in a meeting to issue shares. Next, the company has to file a draft prospectus with SEBI. A draft prospectus. After you have decided that you want to issue shares to public, you have to make a draft prospectus. A prospectus is a document which shows the basic information about the company and the kind of future plans the company is willing to go ahead with their audited statements, financial statements of course, and various other information about directors and other things. When the prospectus is made in draft, it is first submitted with SEBI for approval. A draft prospectus is not a final prospectus. Then the company has to appoint various intermediaries like the banker to the issue or the underwriters and so many, so that the whole process of IPO is properly taken care. Then the company has to enter into an agreement with a depository participant like NSDL or CDSL for dematerialization of its shares. Within 21 days of filing the prospectus with SEBI, now the company has to come up with the prospectus in public and finally issue its shares to the public. However, simultaneously, the company can also apply for listing of its shares in the stock markets. The lead manager will make sure that all the process is completed in time and all the process compliances are followed. So when the lead manager takes care of all these things, the IPO is floated, and when the IPO is floated, the application money comes in, and then the role of the banker to an issue and the registrar to an issue starts. And finally, the shares are oversubscribed or maybe undersubscribed, and accordingly, the shares are allotted to the shareholders, and the shareholders therefore become the owners of the company, and that's where the public is made the owner of an existing company or a new company. So my friends, in this video we have discussed several aspects of primary market, specifically to the reforms and the participants and the process of issue of shares. Hope you find this information interesting and valuable to you. Thank you so very much for your patient listening. Thank you.